So, good morning everybody. Very happy to be here at Hub. First time for me, first time experience. I will share some thoughts about mobility. Some of those would be probably for some of you a bit provocative. So we will end up with a nice discussion at the end, which you are looking forward and you've been asking to. So, our industry is going through a significant, I would say tremendous change. Now, automotive is, you will not recognize automotive anymore in 10 years' time. So this transition will probably take, as any other really radical transition takes, 2 product life cycles in smartphones. It took probably 4 years, from mobile telecommunications into smartphones, 2 life cycles. And I would suggest that it would take something similar in automotive. 2 life cycles, 15 years. We're probably 1/3 into it, probably a little bit less. And actually, we're talking about 2 transitions. First of all, in the drivetrains, from conventional ICE propulsion into electric drivetrains. A significant transition because it disrupts our supply chains. We need new materials, a little bit of new technology, but something very mechanical still. And I would say something the industry is doing quite nicely. This chart allows us to look a little bit from a let's say, financial perspective to our industry. This is turnovers on our industry, and you see that the ICE, which is the conventional automotive business, is declining until 2030. EVs are really growing, and Volkswagen is assuming that by 2030 we will sell about 50% EVs, and in Europe probably a bit more, 60%, in Germany probably 80%. And we think we are well prepared for this transition. This is on the way. We are doing all the investments. We're building up battery plants. We are scaling up charging operations. And we think it's well on the way. We have good growth signals in China already. 25% over the past months, 25% of the cars were electric. In Norway, it's 80%. Germany, 25%. And even America is picking up now. We are in a good second position after Tesla. And we think we can close the gap a little bit within the next months. And we think we are well set up. And this is basically already baked into our financial plans. And we should prevail and should be successful in this first part of the transition. The second part is much more of a challenge. The second part will be a real transition because the car becomes probably the most sophisticated edge device you can imagine. Huge amount of compute power, huge amount of AI, perception, path planning, very safety critical, and a totally new user experience in the car. So how comes? The cars are becoming autonomous. Gradually, cars will evolve from you drive the car, the car will drive you. And this is going to happen, I would say, until 2030. Not from one year to the other, it's going to happen gradually. So cars will take over in relatively easy environments, in good weather conditions, German motorways, Landstraßen, easy, not too complex environments, good weather conditions, and then gradually cars can cope with more, with rain, with snow, with remote areas, with more complex environments like in the city. So it's probably a period of 10 years' time where the cars will take over this driving task. And it's a race, because it's a totally new game, because you have to reorganize your R&D in a totally new way. And as this experience is changing, you can imagine then there's a lot of new potential business models, because once you're relieved from the driving task, which is about an hour a day per person worldwide, you would spend this hour on other things, on gaming, on working, on communication, on streaming, enjoying yourself. And this is big, an hour more. For many people now, if you think about people working in their car, it would be much more of a relief. Huge improvement in productivity for many of our workers. So this is a real step change. So it's basically about two things. It's about taking over the drive. You have to be safe, convenient. You have to cover areas for driving. You have to become a good driver as a car company, as a modern car company. And you have to allow for a user experience in the cabin which is unique, which is new, and you have to redesign the cabin, and you have to provide all the services in the car to make sure that this hour can be used appropriately and people are enjoying it. That's a huge transition, but you also see that it's a huge potential. Now also, the entire industry is a 2 trillion industry today, and by 2030 it will be probably a 5 trillion industry. So the total revenue is probably more than doubling. And there are estimations that this part, the software-enabled part, is even much bigger. It's a relatively conservative assumption, which is the Volkswagen assumption. We're always a bit conservative, but it might be even bigger, and it might go even a little bit faster, not too much, not too much faster. So 5 billion, this is also why all the technology companies want to get into the car. So everyone wants to get into cars now, because this is the next big stream of revenue growth. And you know, if you just, we all remember the days, and we now for 10 years talking about Apple coming to the industry. So why? Because if Apple would have a 1% market share in automotive, they would double their sales. Yeah. Because our industry is 10 times bigger than the smartphone or communications industry, because people are spending much more money on mobility than they're spending on communication. So this is a big driver, and it's about this new industry, it's about new competencies, it's about data, about AI, about battery electric drivetrains, and this is, and some of our new entries, some of the peer fields, that they are well set up for this new game. But it still will be a huge scaling game. It's about scale, it's about worldwide presence, and this is why many of the startups will fail. And it's a long way to get into this industry seriously. The American Berlin company, we know here from Grünheide, they did a great job, but it took them 15 years, and they've spent probably 20 billion. So many of the startups we see still will have a long way to go. And we will do the utmost to defend our position. So, how is that? What are the steps to do? What's happening? A car already, it's about software and about new skills which an automotive company has to acquire. A car already today is a very sophisticated software device. A car has about 10 times more lines of code than a smartphone. A car already has a lot of AI involved when it comes to front camera, pedestrian detection, bicycle detection. There's a lot of AI involved already, and it's increasing. And a car already today is a machine collecting data on the road, swarm data, but on a limited scale. But it will be the machine which is collecting the most data around the world. So it's already complex, and one can see, because our launches take a long time, because how we work today is that most of those lines of software we buy in with embedded systems, normally with the ECUs from a complex supply chain, an ECU for the interior, for the trunk, for the doors, ECU for the drivetrain, for brakes, and we try to then configure those ECU together, get them together in bus systems, and have the whole system running, safe, secure. And we do that normally in preparation for a launch, and then for the next 7 years or for the lifetime of the vehicle, we would not touch this piece of software anymore. And this is going to change radically in this new world. So this device will now, from now on, collect huge amount of data, 12, 14 cameras always on in the cars, perceiving the environment, building new maps and new data models about the environment. And then on the back end, we do learning inference processes to make sure that the car the fleet becomes better and better in the driving performance. So we're talking about not anymore about one car, we're talking about a neural network of cars gathering data, learning together, becoming better in the driving task, basically week by week. And this requires also, once again, a totally different setup. So today, 90% of our software is brought in by first-tier suppliers. In complex supply chains, some of you might be involved in those, in pieces and bits. Once you have to work on this piece of software continuously and deploy continuously into the car, with a cycle of 2 weeks, we are on a cycle of 12 weeks now, 2-week cycle, probably a daily cycle in the future.